This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, welcome to the next session on the requirements prioritization. So we have seen or rather understood about the Moscow technique of requirements prioritization and the ranking method of requirements prioritization. Let's look into what is Kano method, and if possible, we'll try to cover the $100 method also in this video. And the latest, the one after that would be required to cover the rice method. Okay, so right now, Kano method. So, Kano method, based on the name, you might have already identified or guessed it, that it was developed by a professor, a Japanese professor, way back in 1980s, and it is actually quite widely used even now in product development or customer experience management and things like that. So, what happens here is that the set of requirements represented in front of you would have to be kept into multiple buckets. So the three major ones are the basic needs, the performance needs, and the excitement needs. So you see here basic needs, performance need, and then we have something called as excited needs that comes as delighters. Okay. Also, sometimes you might come across some articles or some sort of posts which mention that there are two additional type of needs that can be considered, which is indifferent and reverse needs. What do these categories of needs imply? So let's look into it. So basic needs are nothing but the out of all your requirements, there'll be a set of requirements which, if they are met, okay, then it is fine. The customers will not actually be will be satisfied immensely. But if these basic needs are not met, then that leads to huge dissatisfaction. From our example of food delivery app, imagine the app is not reliable for a customer when they're doing the order processing, or the delivery is not happening based on the timeline estimated. Then what happens? It leads to huge amount of disappointment and dissatisfaction for the customer. But what happens if you're providing the service very well, like customer is able to reliably order or create a food item order, and at the same time the estimated time is within next 30 minutes, and within next 30 minutes the food item is getting delivered to the doorstep. Will that lead to any sort of immense satisfaction for the customer? No, because the customer would say this is what I expected and that is what you're providing, no big deal in it, right? So that sort of requirements would fall into the basic needs category. Okay. Then the next category of requirements would be the performance needs. Okay. So what does this mean is performance needs have a sort of a direct relationship with the satisfaction. Means greater the performance, greater the satisfaction. Okay. For example, now imagine the speed of food delivery. And now you have estimated a time of half an hour. You have mentioned or the app to the customer that you will receive the food at your doorstep within the next half an hour. But you have delivered it within 20 minutes. That makes the customer feel happier, more satisfied. If you deliver within 15 minutes, that makes them much more, happy about this particular using the app, right? So here, faster delivery time is leading to higher satisfaction. More faster, greater satisfaction. So there is a direct correlation between the way your requirement is fulfilling the customer's need. So that falls into the performance need. Then you have something called as excitement needs. Means certain requirements, when they are fulfilled, the way it helps the end user is it gives them immense satisfaction. Okay. If you're not giving that, it is not causing any dissatisfaction because the customer has never even expected it to happen. But if you provide it, that makes the customer become a loyal customer to your app. For example, here, offering a surprise discount. Just before the order is getting finalized, you say that, what, you have unlocked a special feature wherein you get a 20% off on your final order, which was completely unexpected for the customer. You're giving it. So that is an excitement need for the customer. Or you rather call it as delighters, the way it's mentioned here, delighters. Okay. So now these are the sort of requirements which are like delighters, excitement needs. Let me also cover the other two, which are not that important because those are not really considered most of the time, but still, let's cover it. The fourth one is the indifferent needs. Indifferent in the sense, these are the features or requirements which neither increase the satisfaction for the customer nor decrease. The customer is does not bother at all. For example, the customer usually makes use of either credit card payment or internet banking. Now, if you are giving him five more options to make payment in the app, the customer will be okay, fine. I see that instead of two options, there are seven options. But will the customer ever use any of those additional five options? May not use. So, what happens if tomorrow all of a sudden you remove those five options all suddenly? Doesn't make a difference. So, customer is totally not concerned about that additional things which you're providing to him or her. Another typical example which you might be seeing all the time is your MS Excel, Microsoft Excel. In fact, 90% of us, we use just the basic operations within the Excel sheet. But there are so many additional features that are available within any normal Excel document which we don't use. So since we don't use, we're not even bothered about it. Even if tomorrow Microsoft decides to remove that features, we will not be really concerned. That 10% of the people who use would be affected by it. But for us, it is not a big matter. So something like that. That's a neutral or an indifferent needs. Then you have something called as a reverse need, which will have a reverse impact. Means if these happen, then they can lead to dissatisfaction, and when not fulfilled, can lead to satisfaction. What does it mean? For example, let's say we're talking about our food delivery app, right? What happens if your food delivery app actually uses your food order history and posts that information onto social media without your consent? That can have a huge negative impact, right? So there is a requirement which you're implementing, which is actually having a negative impact. So that comes into reverse needs. So that's a rare thing. Usually that doesn't happen. Okay. So you can actually ignore the neutral and reverse needs and focus only on the three which I have mentioned, which are basic needs, performance needs, and the excitement needs, which are also referred to as delighters. Okay. So what it implies is the list of requirements that you have, you discuss with stakeholders and put it into these three buckets and then focus on the basic needs first. Once those are implemented, get into the performance needs. And once even those are fulfilled, then you go towards the delighters. Okay. And when you talk about it like this and all, sometimes the stakeholders may say, okay, we want delighters also because we want loyal customers. So let's do one thing. We'll extend the timeline of this project by, say, another 1 or 2 months so that we can get these delighters also implemented, so on and so forth. So that and all is for another discussion. But the point is, you have too many requirements which cannot be completely implemented with quality within the given timelines. So you split it into three buckets, and you, in the sense, you discuss with the stakeholders and help them take the decision of splitting these requirements into these three categories, and then get into the development part of it. Now, what does this graph imply here? Okay, we have been talking basic needs, performance needs, delighters. What does this graph imply? So here it is nothing but on the x-axis you have the level of implementation, and on the y-axis you have the level of satisfaction. So basic needs, if you see, this is the green line. Okay, what does this imply? This implies that the satisfaction for the customer is not going to really increase as in how you increase the implementation of these basic needs. That's why this particular green line is more like this. Whereas if you see the gray line, which is the performance needs, that is like a linear effect is there. More you implement these requirements, more the satisfaction for the customer. Okay, that is what this green line implies. And then you have this red color curve, which is the delighters, which is like there is an exponential increase in the satisfaction for the customer when this is implemented. The example which I spoke about was the special discounts which you're giving, surprise discounts which you're giving. Okay, such sort of things will give immense satisfaction to the customer, and it leads to exponential rise in satisfaction. That's well understood. Now, what does these two downward arrows imply over here? Any idea? Pause the video, think about some time, and then let me know what you understand from it. Okay, so let me tell you. Here, this whatever is mentioned here, that gives you the idea that over time, delightful innovation becomes another basic need. Means over a period of time, whatever is termed as delighters or excitement needs in the current scenario, those needs will eventually become basic needs for the customer. Now, let's take an example here. For example, way back in 2007, 8 and all, when smartphone really started evolving, okay, at that point, till that point of time, the camera of the phone was not that good. Okay, so at that point of time, way back in late 2000s and early 2010 and all, if there was a specific camera feature in a smartphone, which was you can have the front camera, back camera, and it can take very good quality pictures and all, that used to be a delighter, that used to be an excitement need for the customer. Using this particular feature or by implementing this feature, the companies could actually attract more and more customers. Okay, but what happened over a period of time is that all the phone manufacturers started implementing this particular camera features with optical zoom and night vision cameras and etc etc. So then at this point of time, the situation has become so much that even if a particular camera feature is there in a smartphone, it is not a differentiating factor. In fact, at this point of time, if there is a smartphone which is not having a camera feature, that will lead to huge dissatisfaction. The customer might not purchase that smartphone at all. But will the customer be excited to purchase a smartphone just because the camera setting is good in it? May not be. So what has happened is this delighting feature of having camera or photo taking ability with a smartphone way back a decade back or something like that has become basic need right now. So that's what it means, that over a period of time, your delighters become basic needs. So we took an example of special discounts, surprising discounts in the food delivery apps. If it is overused, then that becomes a basic need later on. Then the client has to come up with some new set of innovative, delighting requirements, which can really make the customer feel wow, that create that wow factor. So that's what it is all about. Okay, so this is what Kano method is all about. I thought we could include the $100 method, but it's okay. So we'll try to cover the $100 method in the next video. We'll stop this one over here. Thanks everyone.